Today, I want to show you the playroom I've created. I wanted it to be an emotion-led, human-centered space with warm neutrals, gentle layers, filled with curated moments of cozy Scandi energy that reflect a slow living flow, heritage-inspired details, and just enough shabby chic cottagecore whimsy to feel restorative rather than overstimulating intentionally. Really? You think I'd do that? Obviously not.
Playroom activated.
This is the ultimate playroom. It's quite a small room, and I'm going to tour you through how I've used the organisational principles that I've talked about before and applied it to designing a whole room that is not only modular, adaptable and flexible, but also intelligent and stylish. It maximises every inch of space, and the room can easily flex and grow as my children get older. Now, by calling it a playroom, you may be forgiven for thinking that this is a room for playing and gaming. Of course, that's true, but I don't want to encourage my children to be glued to a screen, so there's also a secret goal behind this design, and that's to shape my children's behaviour. So I'll touch on that too throughout the tour. Let's start with how this room has 7 different modes and the potential to add many more. Each mode transforms the room automatically depending on what we're doing. I mean, what my children are doing. Okay, I'll admit it. This has turned into one of the funnest rooms in the house. And the benefit of that is that rather than my children hiding away alone in their separate rooms, they are drawn to be together, to socialise. And my husband and I can't help but gravitate towards the fun as well. They also can't wait to invite their friends around. One of the key hidden goals for me was to encourage socialisation. And the 7 modes this room offers means that it is a social magnet for people. It's different, it's interactive, and the best thing is that my kids are absolutely thrilled with it. In gaming mode, the room turns into something intense and focused. The lights get punchy, the blinds come down, the sound wakes up, and the image changes to suit. Movie mode is more about removing distraction. The room darkens, the lighting softens, and the focus shifts forwards, and you stop noticing the room entirely, which is exactly the point. TV mode pulls things back a bit. The lighting is more natural and more relaxed than in movie mode. It's good for light viewing where the television is almost backgrounded. You might be chatting about the programme or doing something else at the same time. Music mode is where the room gets playful. The lighting becomes rhythmic, the space feels alive, and suddenly it's less about sitting still and more about energy. Reading mode does the exact opposite. It's practical, calm, and gentle. Enough light where you need it, nothing fighting for attention, and subtle changes in the images to match favourite books or characters. I made a short video about these wireless e-ink frames from SwitchBot recently, so do take a look if you're interested. Dance mode is pure chaos, and that's deliberate. My daughter and her friends love dancing, and whilst we do have a dance game, you can also flip to a gentler style. Here, the mirrors have a triple benefit: to hide the mess, to make the small room look bigger, and to help her practice her ballet moves. And then there's relax mode. Gentle lighting and music or sounds, a little retreat to have a power snooze after an exhausting sleepover. And by the way, this chair I made based on my daughter's drawing is the most comfortable in the house. There may be a career for her in furniture design. Just as an aside, the reason this room works quite well is that the colour with the lights off is pretty neutral. I've gone with black, but white would work too. But it just means that a change in lighting can have a dramatic effect on the feel of the room. Then again, each mode isn't just a lighting preset. The whole behaviour of the room changes. The lights, the blinds, sound, TV, all respond together at the click of a button. But that's just part of the story. I wanted my children to be able to easily control the different moods, so I built this dashboard in Home Assistant and have displayed it on a tablet. They don't tell the lights what colour to be or the blinds where to stop. They tell the room what it's meant to be doing. So behind the scenes, Home Assistant connects and controls my devices based on the criteria that I've set. It's just scenes, helpers, and automations reacting to state. But it's not just a case of if button pressed, close blinds, change lights, and turn on telly. I've got my hidden layer as well, the behavioural layer. As I mentioned, much as I want my children to love this room, I don't want them to be in it all the time. I want them to get bored and be creative. I want them to play outside. I want them to be helpful around the house by doing chores. I want them to do their homework. And I want them to actually enjoy doing these things too. So there is a time limit on playing with their Nintendo Switch. They can see the time ticking down, and when that ends, they have a 2-minute warning, just in case they need to finish bashing Bowser, and then they must exit the room to avoid any undesirable consequences. They can also earn points by playing outside or doing something helpful, and these all add up to allow them to pay for something that they want, whether that's going swimming, going to the workshop to make something with mummy, or having a bit of extra screen time. Their scores are all visible in Home Assistant. This all adds up to making life a bit more fun, and hopefully gives them a sense that you have to work and contribute to get rewarded. I've also added this wave sensor by Aqara to spot whether there's a heartbeat in the room. If not, then it all powers down. I mentioned that this room is adaptable and modular. Partly that's because it has to be. My children are in primary school, and I am not going to be changing the room every couple of years. It has to be able to evolve as they get older and eventually enter their teenage years. But also, it makes the design process so much easier. I can test ideas out and move things around without locking myself into a decision too early. It will come as no surprise to regular viewers that this has all been enabled by my long-suffering 3D printers. The feature walls are covered in black open grid to match the walls, and this has allowed me to snap these Govee mini panels into it in a less damaging way than command strips. I could easily change this pattern in the future without ripping the paint off the wall. The game controller mounts are 3D printed and can easily be moved or removed as technology changes or updates. And the wires are all hidden by black underwear channels. I have also organised the tech for this room in the cupboard in a similar way to the server cabinet that I did a video on recently. The children are regularly accessing this to get to the Nintendo Switch, so I thought, well, it might as well look good too. You can see that I've used these transparent underwear channels to house the LEDs. I'm using SwitchBot's ones in the cupboard because they're just easy to install, and Govee's to surround the feature walls because I wanted a diffused look. I like both of these, although because Govee's are so thick, they're more designed for rounded corners, I think. Getting them to stick down was a bit tricky and I had to use a glue gun to keep them in place. I did all of the single colour prints with my Bamboo Lab printers, mainly the X1C and P2S, and the larger prints were done with the H2D, and then I used my new snap maker to do the multicoloured prints, and it was absolutely awesome. So fast. This has allowed me to add a fun layer, like a magnetic Mario board which snaps into the open grid, and Zelda, Kirby, other Mario bits and pieces. Printing this box out on the Snapmaker U1 compared to, say, the P1S takes, say, 3 hours instead of like 11. I often use 3D printing to improve my woodwork. I made these cabinets to hide the plugs and wires. Yes, I have no underwear there. Don't judge me. But to hide the rough edges, I 3D printed these little grommets. I've also 3D printed these magnetic clips to allow the front of this unit to come on and off. At the top of the chair as well, I've hidden the plugs and wiring behind these 3D printed shields, which I painted to match. Hiding the wires in the coving was quite tricky, but again, 3D printing came to the rescue. Being able to 3D print opens up a whole world of possibilities because I am never limited by the fact that something doesn't exist. Yet. I also returned to my trusty 3D printed tools, such as my Perky Peaks, which help with the painting. So there you have it. This is now an almost limitless canvas of fun ideas. At Christmas, I was able to hit a button and the room became Christmas themed. And when the kids are passionate about their latest craze, we can tailor everything to suit. But then the room can grow with them as they do. It is a room where my children can play, crash, dance, read, watch films, and sometimes just lie on the floor doing absolutely nothing. It's a room that draws people in, sparks conversation and fun, but also secretly and subtly helps me to instill good behaviours in a fun way. In short, you don't need more space to build something special. You need better design. You need to think about how a space behaves, not just how it looks. And when a room works with you instead of against you, even a tiny one can feel limitless. This is where technology can really help. It's brilliant that in a 2.6 metre by 3.5 metre space, you can now fit over 100 million books, 10 million songs, thousands of games, the entire world's art collections, over 100 board games. A dedicated video is definitely coming on that, and much more. But I realise there is so much more that I can do. So you know what to do? Give me ideas in the comments. Diolch yn fawr, a hwyl fawr.